Often, without realizing it, we fill important places in each other's lives. We are good people who are always there, who can be relied on in small, ordinary ways. People who, by example, teach us, bless us, encourage us, support us, uplift us in the dailiness of life. You might be one of those people yourself. Being aware of the possibility that being useful in this world is the doorway into assuring that it will come to be true.
I'm going to tell you a story about when I was your age, which was a long time ago. So I grew up in this house on Richmond Circle. This road was actually a circle, and it was in Pittsburgh. And I had 3 sisters. One was my twin. And our favorite thing to do was to play dress up. I've always liked dress up. Do you like dress up? Yeah. Is that what you call it? Do you call it dress up? Okay. So we had a trunk in our basement, and we had different clothes in there, and the kids from the neighborhood would come with their clothes, and we'd put on different things, and we'd pretend to be different people, and we would put on records. A record. What is a record? Yeah. Yeah, it's a music CD. I think that's a good, yes, it's a music CD. So there was something called a record player, and you'd put it on, and you'd put this thing on, and it would spin around, and it would make music. This is all before CDs, even before computers. You know, things were different, okay? Well, we would listen to records, and we'd do little songs and dances and make little shows, and we would charge our parents 10 cents. That was a lot of money then, to come and watch us put on variety shows. And then when I became an adult and I came to this church, I met Donna, and we did the same thing here. We put on 7 variety shows, and we made people pay money to watch us do silly things, and we had so much fun. Okay, so I've always liked dress up. Now, the other thing about that time was that when I was like your age, nobody had a TV. There were no TVs. It hadn't been invented, okay? I remember, I think I was 7 when we had our first TV, and it was so exciting because before that, we would sit in the living room just like you are, and we would look at a radio. And we would listen to what was on the radio. But now we had pictures, we had movies in our house, we had stories in our house. It was so exciting. And the first shows that were on were Westerns, okay? Westerns were a big thing. Cowboys, cowgirls, Indians, out west. And what are some of the Westerns, grandparents, adults? What do you remember? What are some of the Westerns? What?
Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger, yes. What else? Huh? Oh, Hop Along Cassidy. I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Building a kid on there.
Building a kid?
Billy.
Billy the Kid. I know. That was later. Okay, who else? Who else?
Red Ryder and Little Feather.
What?
Red Ryder and Little Feather.
Okay. I don't know. Bonanza. Yeah, that was a big one. Huh? Zorro, yes. Wagon Train. Guess what? What? Sky King, yes. Yes, my husband liked that because he's a pilot. You know, I looked it up, there were actually 100 different Western TV series and films from the 1940s to the 1960s. And they all had songs that went with them, and one of my favorite songs was Home, Home on the Range, okay? Now, the minister we're going to be reading his stories today, he wrote a story about the man who created that song. He was a doctor. He lived out west in Kansas about 150 years ago. His name was Brewster Higley VII, and he wrote that song, okay? And we're going to sing it when you leave. But anyway, So back to TVs and shows. So my favorite character was Annie Oakley. Annie Oakley was the only, I think she was the only cowgirl. She was the only cow. They were always cowboys. You know, there's always been women have gotten second place. But Annie Oakley, she could ride a horse better than any guy. And she'd ride along, she'd go faster than the train. And she'd go and get on the train and jump off. And she'd get rid of robbers, you know, and put them in jail. She was wonderful. I had an Annie Oakley outfit. I wore that outfit. Well, in my time, you weren't allowed to wear costumes to school. Are you allowed to wear costumes now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, we weren't allowed to wear costumes. But as soon as I got home, I put on my Annie Oakley outfit. Okay. And yeah, that was the way we did things. So I have always loved dress up. And that's why Halloween is my very, very favorite holiday, right? And we're going to celebrate, like I said, afterwards. And these are some memories from that, my cowboy hat. And we're going to sing now to you as you go down to your class, my favorite cowboy song, Home, Home on the Range. Okay.
Everybody can join in on this one, right?
Yeah.
A Unitarian minister is often asked to perform interfaith marriages. Mixed marriage is the common term. But widely differing religious backgrounds are not usually all that's involved. Any wedding wherein the bride or groom is marrying someone outside the family borders of race or class is mixed. To be asked to perform such a marriage is to join two people trying to cross a minefield without getting blown apart. The paradigm is the wedding of a very lovely young woman from Brooklyn, huge family, Polish immigrant stock, and Jewish. Her tall, dark, and handsome fiancé hailed from Detroit. Likewise, a huge family, likewise immigrant stock, but Irish and Roman Catholic. The bride's family included a rabbi and a cantor. The other team had a priest and a few nuns on the roster. But Miss Brooklyn and Mr. Detroit were 21 years old and overwhelmed with love. And love, they were quite certain, could find a way through any obstacle. Here's how they saw their options. Plan A, get married by a judge and never tell the folks back east. But, and here comes love again, They really loved their parents, and if their parents found out, which they were bound to do, they would be deeply wounded, especially when they found out that there hadn't been a religious ceremony of some kind. And so, Plan B. Get married by a Unitarian Universalist minister and tell the parents a day later. A kind of semi-elopement. The parents had no idea what Unitarians believed, but at least it was a religious deal and in a church. Good idea. Enter the Reverend Fulghum, which led to Plan C. As long as the wedding was going to be in a church with a minister, they might as well invite a few friends instead of having only 2 witnesses. And as long as they were inviting those few friends, they might as well invite a few more friends, since they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And since they were now at the soft edge of the list where the category of friend and the category of acquaintance sort of merge, they might as well just go ahead and invite everybody they knew. So now we have a big wedding, a juggernaut, in fact. Oh, but they can't do the whole hoo-ha and not invite the families. Uh-oh, minefield, here we come. So they called their mothers and invited them to the wedding. The mothers were united in their response. You're marrying a what? A what? What? Followed by silence and a lot of sobbing. Then the daddies got on the line, and some of their remarks were, come home now. This minute, now. For a month, the mail and phone calls flowed like waterfalls. Uncles and aunts and cousins got in the fray. The rabbi wrote a 30-page letter. The priest and nuns prayed. The families were not coming, ever, to such a wedding. The families threatened blackmail, hellfire, and heartbreak. Bribes were offered. No matter, nothing could dissuade the couple, not even being disinherited, which was the ultimate threat thrown at them by both families. Not that the bride and groom were unmoved. They spent a lot of time in Reverend Fulghum's office. The bride bawled, the groom swore, but the marriage was meant to be come hell or high water, both of which seemed well on their way. But the couple had an invisible shield, love, and a secret weapon, a sense of humor, light hearts. They laughed as often as they cried. The tiebreaker in this standoff was the grandmother of the groom. By God, if her only grandson was getting married, then she was going to be there. Granny was serious. She went and bought a ticket. She was coming to the wedding, period. If grandmother was coming, then she would need support. She couldn't go alone, of course, and pretty soon all of the Irish Catholics from Detroit were coming. Well, you know what happened next. 35 Brooklyn Jews, including the grandfather rabbi, had plane tickets. The wedding began to shape up like a grudge match between Notre Dame and Jerusalem Tech. Come the great day, Saturday evening after sundown, to please the you-know-whats, the families marched into the church and sat down. No, they dug in, would be more like it, and on either side of the aisle. For a time, I would have given 6-to-1 odds in favor of a free-for-all following the ceremony instead of a reception. But I keep forgetting about love. The Irish Catholics from Detroit loved the groom. No less than the Polish Jews from Brooklyn loved the bride. And for very good reasons. They were remarkable young people. Worthy of pride and respect, even if they didn't have a brain in their heads when it came to choosing a mate. And when the couple said their vows, it was clear they meant every word. And when the bride began to weep and her groom took her in his arms and wept too, well, the whole church was awash in tears. I've seen weddings before, but this turned into a communal bath. What was happening was simple, really. Joy had jumped us from behind about the time when the bride said, yes, yes, oh yes. When the minister asked if she took this man, something very old and fine and new and good was plainly happening. Joy, an unspeakable affirmation of something right. It was then that the grandmother of the groom, the grand matriarch of the Irish Catholics, 78-year-old, rose to sing Ave Maria. She did not come all this way to let her grandson down. She stood by the piano, took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and delivered the goods. This was the voice of a grandmother distilling her life into the music for a once-in-a-lifetime occasion to honor what she loved and believed in. When the last lovely note faded and silence held us firm, grandmother opened her eyes, smiled at her grandson, and said, "There now." And the Brooklyn Jews gave her a spontaneous standing ovation. They knew that grandmother had given it all she had, and they knew great love when they saw it. She was their kind of guy. Yay, Grandma. Well, Grandfather Rabbi was not about to be undone. He walked slowly to the stand close by the bride and groom. He reached out and took their hands in his, and then speaking for Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and all the Jews of Brooklyn, he laid a blessing on the couple that ought to last them the rest of their lives. And you didn't have to understand Hebrew to know it. So, of course, as you would hope, the Irish Catholics gave the grandfather rabbi a standing ovation he will never forget. Yay, Grandpa! Well, what the families had not understood until the end of the wedding was that they had many of the same values and traditions, despite their arguments over metaphors for ultimate things. They believed in family, faith, love, the same God, and the capacity to celebrate those things. The newlyweds danced and everyone applauded. Grandfather Rabbi asked grandmother opera singer to dance, and the crowd roared and then joined them, and the party was on. Never have I been so touched at a reception. Never was there such dancing and eating and laughing and singing long, long into the night. It was magnificent. 3 days later, when my head cleared, I realized that the skeptical minister had been wrong and the bride and groom right. Love was more powerful than prejudice. Love won out. The final score was love 21, evil spirits zip. When in doubt, trust those you love, all of them.
Above the light switch by the door to the studio where I work, I often place a photograph, pinning it to the wall with a red push pin. When in a magazine or newspaper, I find a particularly arresting picture, a visual that provokes my mind, I tear it out and put it by the light switch so that I can see it and consider it as I go. Something to inspire me, something to confront me. For most of the month of March 1990, 3 photographs were pinned there by the light switch together. white news photo from the morning paper earlier in the month, showing a middle-aged man in a short-sleeved, sweat-stained khaki shirt. The man is smiling a great smile, and the other people in the picture are also smiling. The occasion is the conclusion of an election, an honest election, held in the powder keg conditions in a Central American country. Nobody was killed during the elections, and the losers accepted the results, leading to a major change in the government. The man in the shirt sleeves was risking his credibility and brains and skills, even his life, to help bring about the impossible. He was there on his own, representing only himself and his concerns, without compensation other than the wages of conscience.
The third picture shows a man in a white shirt and tie. He's not smiling. The look on his face is a combination of vexation and determination. He has come once again to the meetings in the Middle East to get enemies to talk to one another face to face. Not on behalf of any government, or any government not on behalf of any organization, on behalf of peace and justice, an agent of progress in human affairs.
It's the same man in each of these pictures by the light switch. And he is truly in the construction business, giving of his time and life to build houses for poor people, to build an atmosphere wherein free elections can take place, to build structures in peace in one of the oldest and harshest arenas of conflict in human history.
By now you know the man's name is Carter. Excuse me, it's really dancing. Because he's a great man, and he's 100 years old, and he voted. He used to raise peanuts in Georgia. Got a government job once. Carpenter now and teacher. And when the historians settle up accounts on the 20th century someday, his name will shine. He may not be in the list of great presidents, probably not. Too soon to say. But it's not too soon to say he's the finest ex-president in our country, and maybe ever.
Each night, as I finished my work and paused at the switch, I looked at the three pictures. Gallant is the word that comes to mind, high-spirited, courageous. He knows how to lose, for he has lost big. Forces beyond his control may have made him the wrong man for the wrong job at the wrong time. Still, he has lost as few men have.
He might have tucked his tail between his legs and spent the rest of his life sorting out his papers and fishing and playing golf. Others who have said his government job have done as little. But to lose and be a loser are different matters. Besides, he still has work to do. Tasks he accepts because of who he is, and not because of any office he may or may not have held. He is proof there is no limit to the amount of good a man can do, if he does not worry about who gets the credit. He's not of those who gained the whole world and lost his soul. His example is not lost on me. Thanks to that man, to him, the noble prize.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And our sending song is number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
You can change.